Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, leave a like on this video, and tell us in the comments where you're listening from. Now, let's get into the story. I never thought my life would change inside a hospital room. I imagined betrayal as something dramatic, a slammed door, a suitcase by the bed. But mine unfolded under fluorescent lights, with the steady beep of a monitor reminding me I was still alive while the person I trusted most was slowly slipping away. My name is Lauren, and a week before everything collapsed, I turned 33. Ethan, my husband, bought me a cake from the bakery down the street. We laughed that night. He smeared frosting on my nose and kissed it away. For a moment, we were the couple people assumed we were: happy, solid, playful. If I replay that memory now, it feels staged, like we were both pretending not to see the cracks already forming beneath us. The accident that sent me to the hospital wasn't dramatic either. A rainy Thursday, slippery steps outside my office, a sharp pain in my abdomen. By the time I made it inside, I could barely stand. Doctors found a hernia complication and scheduled immediate surgery. I called Ethan, and his voice was careful, almost rehearsed. He arrived before they wheeled me in, kissed my forehead, and told me I'd be fine. His words felt lighter than they used to, like balloons slipping out of his hand. The last thing I remember before the anesthesia was a nurse introducing herself. Nicole. She had calm eyes and a smile that felt safe. She held my hand as I drifted into darkness. When I woke up, she was there again, adjusting my blanket and telling me the surgery had gone well. I hated how helpless I felt, needing her help just to sip water. She made it easier, though. She had that quiet way of being present without making you feel small. I liked her instantly. Maybe that was my first mistake. Ethan walked in with flowers too perfect to be thoughtful. Roses, hydrangeas, eucalyptus, like he had asked the florist for something impressive instead of something personal. He kissed me quickly, set the bouquet down, and moved around the room as if he didn't belong in it. His hands fidgeted with the blinds, his phone, anything but me. Nicole checked my vitals, laughed at his weak joke about hospital coffee, then disappeared down the hall. The sound of her laugh stayed with me longer than it should have. I told myself she was just doing her job, and Ethan was just tired. But somewhere inside me, a note had already been written, even if I wasn't ready to read it yet. The first night blurred into half-sleep, interrupted by footsteps in the corridor and the soft glow of machines. I tried to picture home, our couch, the plant Ethan always watered, our cat sprawled across the bed. I wanted to believe those ordinary pieces of life were still waiting for me, unchanged. The next day, Nicole came by more often. She adjusted my pillows, told me stories about her patients, even braided my hair loosely when she saw me struggling. It was the kind of attention that felt intimate without meaning to. Ethan arrived with a bag of things I hadn't asked for and forgot the one thing I had: my book. He apologized too many times, called himself an idiot, then buried himself in his laptop at the foot of my bed. That was when I noticed the first real shift. He didn't even try to close the computer the way he used to when we were together. When Nicole entered to bring my medication, I saw something. A glance between them. Quick, subtle, but too warm. She smiled at his joke again, and he smiled back with a softness I hadn't seen directed at me in weeks. It wasn't proof, not yet. But it was enough to plant a seed I couldn't ignore. That night, when Ethan texted that he couldn't make it back before morning, I told myself it was work. I even believed it until I saw Nicole later, in the hallway outside the staff room. No scrubs, just jeans and sneakers. She leaned against the wall, phone in hand. Someone turned the corner, and though I couldn't see his face, I recognized Ethan's posture instantly. His shoulders, his nervous shift, they didn't touch. They didn't have to. The air between them told me everything I didn't want to know. I closed my eyes and told myself I was imagining it, that my brain was exaggerating because I was weak and in pain. But deep down, I knew. Something was already breaking. The next morning, Ethan arrived late again, carrying yogurt and a smile that asked for forgiveness without words. Nicole didn't come in. She had said she was off, but I couldn't stop replaying the image of her in that hallway with him. It was then I realized I had a choice. I could keep lying to myself, or I could start paying attention. And once you start paying attention, you can't unsee the truth that I sat on the edge of my hospital bed, stitches pulling at my skin, hands gripping the walker the therapist had left for me. I wasn't strong enough to stand, but I was too tired of lying down. I knew something was waiting for me in that hallway, and whether it destroyed me or set me free, I was going to face it. The morning after I saw them in the hallway, something inside me had shifted. I wasn't just a patient anymore. I was an investigator trapped in a hospital gown, holding on to fragments of a marriage that suddenly felt more fragile than the stitches in my skin. Ethan arrived with his usual excuses: traffic, deadlines, needing to check on the cat. He smiled like nothing had changed, kissed me lightly, and pulled out his laptop before even asking how I felt. I watched him the way you watch a stranger on the subway, alert to every small detail, waiting for the clue that explains who they are. Nicole wasn't scheduled that day, but I couldn't stop seeing her in the doorway of my mind. Her jeans, her sneakers, the way she leaned against the wall as though she belonged to a part of Ethan's world I hadn't been invited into. I tried to push the thought away, but it returned with every pause in his voice, every half-truth tucked between his words. By the afternoon, Harper showed up, carrying iced coffee and a stack of gossip magazines. She plopped down in the visitor's chair like she was moving in. "You look like hell," she said with the kind of affection only best friends can get away with. I laughed, then winced. "You're supposed to lie to me." "I save my lies for men who deserve them," she shot back, then glanced at Ethan. He had stepped out to take a call in the hallway. She lowered her voice. "So? Are you going to tell me why you look like you've seen a ghost?" I hesitated. Saying it out loud meant admitting it might be real. But Harper wasn't the kind of friend you could hide from. "I think something's going on between Ethan and my nurse." Her eyebrows shot up. "The one who braided your hair?" "Nicole." Just saying her name made my chest tighten. Harper leaned closer. "Okay. What makes you think that?" I told her about the glances, the laughter, the way Ethan stiffened when Nicole walked in. I told her about the night I saw them together in the hallway. By the time I finished, her mouth was a tight line. "Lauren," she said carefully, "you've always noticed things before the rest of us. You catch the details no one else does. Don't gaslight yourself just because it's uncomfortable." Her words gave me permission to trust my instincts, even if I hated what they were pointing to. That night, Ethan left earlier than usual, saying he needed to catch up on work. He kissed me longer than the night before, as if that extra second could erase the empty hours he was about to leave me with. I waited until I was sure he was gone, then asked the night nurse if Nicole was still around. She shook her head. "She's off until Friday." But I knew what I had seen. The next day dragged like wet cloth. Pain medicine blurred the hours, but suspicion sharpened everything else. Every beep of the monitor, every shuffle in the hallway, felt like part of a code I needed to crack. By afternoon, I convinced myself I was paranoid. By evening, I caught Ethan staring at his phone with a softness in his face I hadn't seen directed at me in months. "What's so funny?" I asked. He startled, then held up the screen too quickly. "A meme about cats. Something generic." He chuckled, over-explaining the joke, and for the first time in our marriage, I didn't believe him. Later, while he was in the bathroom, his phone buzzed on the chair. One new message. My body moved before my brain caught up. I reached for it, heart hammering. But the screen locked before I could see anything, leaving me with nothing but the glow of suspicion burning in my chest. When he came back, I pretended to be asleep. He sat down, typed something quickly, then slipped the phone into his pocket. The following morning, Nicole was back. She breezed into the room with that same calm smile, asking how I'd slept, adjusting my fur like it was the most natural thing in the world. Ethan arrived 10 minutes later. The room changed instantly. They didn't touch. They didn't say anything inappropriate. But there was a current in the air, an invisible wire stretched between them. His posture softened when she spoke. Her laugh came too easily. I felt like a ghost at my own bedside, watching two people carry on a conversation in a language only they understood. At lunch, when Nicole left to check another patient, I asked Ethan directly, "Do you like her?" He froze. "What?" "She's our nurse, Lauren." "Our nurse?" I repeated. "Funny, because it feels like she's yours." His jaw tightened. "You're imagining things. You're stressed. You just had surgery." The words stung more than I expected. Not because they denied my suspicion, but because they implied I wasn't capable of knowing the truth about my own life. That night, when Harper texted to ask how I was holding up, I typed back, "I don't think I'm crazy. I think I'm right," and deep down, I knew I was. The problem was, I didn't have proof. Not yet.so I decided to get it. I told myself I would start watching, listening, waiting for the moment when they slipped. Because people always do, and when they did, I would be ready. By the time the weekend arrived, the hospital felt like a stage, and I was trapped in the lead role of a play I hadn't auditioned for. My body was healing, but my mind was unraveling. Every glance, every pause, every unfinished sentence between Ethan and Nicole was a thread pulling loose from the fabric of my marriage. On Friday morning, Nicole returned after her day off. She wore her scrubs, hair pulled back neatly, no makeup except the faint shine of lip balm. She walked in with a clipboard, but when her eyes met Ethan's, there was a flicker, tiny, fast, but unmistakable. It was the look of two people acknowledging a private world, one I wasn't part of. Ethan greeted her too casually, too comfortably, as if he had already seen her that day. The thought clawed at my chest. I reminded myself she had been off, but the image of them together in that hallway kept resurfacing. When Nicole stepped out to adjust medications for another patient, I whispered to Ethan, "Did you see her yesterday?" He blinked, caught off guard. "What?" "No. She wasn't even here." I searched his face. He didn't stumble. He didn't sweat. He looked me right in the eye and lied so smoothly it scared me. That afternoon, Harper came again, bringing contraband coffee and a blanket from home. Ethan stepped out to take another phone call. His calls seemed endless lately, and I poured everything out to her. "I don't know if I'm paranoid or if I'm watching my marriage collapse in real time," I said, clutching the blanket like it could anchor me. "You're not paranoid," Harper said. "You're observant. Don't let him convince you otherwise. If he's hiding something, you'll find it." Her certainty steadied me. I decided she was right. If the truth was there, I needed to stop avoiding it. I needed to catch it in the open. That night, I pretended to sleep when Ethan said he had to leave just for a bit. My heart thudded as I counted the minutes. 10, 20, 30. I couldn't stay in bed anymore. The hallway was quiet, just the soft hum of machines and distant voices from the nurse's station. I pushed myself up, clutching the walker, ignoring the pain tugging at my stitches. Each step felt like a small rebellion. I made my way toward the staff corridor. The light above the door glowed dimly. Voices drifted through, muffled but clear enough to recognize. Ethan's low tone, then Nicole's softer reply. They weren't talking about charts or medication. Their voices carried warmth, familiarity. Something dangerously close to intimacy. I froze in the shadows, pressing myself against the wall. Ethan said something I couldn't make out. Nicole laughed quietly, a laugh she never used in front of me. It was softer, almost shy. I felt the sound pierce straight through my chest. When footsteps approached, I ducked back toward my room, breath shallow, pretending I had only been stretching my legs. I made it back to bed before Ethan returned. His face was flushed, his eyes bright, as if he'd been somewhere that fed him in a way I hadn't in a long time. He kissed my forehead quickly. Too quickly, and pulled out his laptop again. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, rage and heartbreak wrestling in my chest. It wasn't proof, not the kind I could confront him with. But it was enough for me to know I wasn't imagining it. Something was happening. The next morning, I made a decision. I would stop being passive. If they were careless enough to flirt in the same building where I was recovering, then sooner or later they would slip. And I would be ready. I started paying closer attention. The way Ethan's eyes followed her when she left the room. The way Nicole lingered a second too long when handing me water, glancing at him instead of me. The silence between them when I asked questions directly, like my words had cut through something unspoken. On Sunday afternoon, I told Ethan I wanted to take a short walk down the hall to regain strength. He offered to come with me, but I insisted I'd be fine with the walker. He hesitated, then let me go. Halfway down the corridor, I spotted them. Not together, not touching, but their timing was too perfect. Nicole turned a corner just as Ethan came out of the staff room. They almost collided, then laughed softly, instinctively stepping closer before catching themselves. They didn't see me. I stayed hidden behind the edge of the wall, my pulse pounding so hard it drowned out everything else. That night, when Ethan said he had to grab something from the car, I decided to test him. I waited 5 minutes, then slipped out of bed again. This time I didn't stop in the hallway. I followed. The hospital at night was a different world, hushed and eerie. I saw him at the end of the corridor, standing near the vending machines. Not on the phone. Not heading to the parking lot. Waiting. Moments later, Nicole appeared from the opposite direction. She walked straight to him. They didn't embrace, but the way they leaned toward each other was louder than a kiss. Their bodies spoke in secrets, in unfinished sentences only they understood. I ducked into a supply closet, heart hammering, afraid they'd see me. Through the crack in the door, I caught fragments of their conversation. Ethan's voice, I shouldn't be here. Nicole's reply, then why are you? A silence stretched. Then the sound of her exhaling, the kind of exhale people share when they've crossed a line but aren't ready to admit it. I couldn't breathe. My knees shook. The ache in my abdomen screamed. I clamped a hand over my mouth to stop myself from making a sound. When they finally parted ways, Ethan walked back toward my room. Nicole disappeared down the hall. I stayed hidden until the silence felt safe again. Back in bed, I closed my eyes and pretended to be asleep when he returned. He kissed my temple, whispered, "I love you," and crawled into the visitor's chair. The words rang hollow. I didn't know if he meant them for me anymore. That night I realized something with terrifying clarity. Proof wasn't about catching them kissing or tangled in each other's arms. Proof was already there, in their voices, in their eyes, in the way he lied without hesitation, but I wasn't ready to confront him yet. Not without making him see what I saw. Not without forcing the truth into the light where neither of them could deny it, and so I waited. Watched. Collected every piece of evidence I could. I told myself that when the moment came, when the mask finally slipped, I would be strong enough to face it, but nothing could prepare me for how brutally the truth would reveal itself. By Monday night, I was done pretending. Every glance, every excuse, every whisper in the hallway had piled into a mountain I couldn't climb over anymore. I told myself I wanted proof, but the truth is I already had it. What I needed was the courage to face it. Ethan said he had to grab something from the car. I smiled and nodded, but as soon as the door closed behind him, I swung my legs over the bed. My stitches burned, my body screamed, but none of it compared to the fire in my chest. I pushed the walker into the hallway and followed. The hospital was quiet, the kind of silence that feels heavy. I moved slowly, heart pounding. Voices drifted from the on-call lounge. His voice. Then hers. Ethan, we shouldn't be doing this. Nicole, then why are you here? The pause after her words told me everything. I inched closer, peering through the cracked door. Ethan was standing too close, her hand resting on his chest. When he leaned down, their lips met. It wasn't an accident. It wasn't confusion. It was deliberate, practiced, and devastating. The sound in my ears wasn't a scream, it was silence, sharp and final. I pushed the door open. They froze, eyes wide, faces pale. Nicole's hand dropped. Ethan's mouth opened like he was about to spin some story, but nothing came out. I stood there, clutching the walker. So this is it, I said quietly. The truth I've been choking on for days. Lauren, Ethan started, don't. My voice cut through the air. Don't insult me with lies. You've already shown me enough. Nicole's face crumpled. You never meant for me to see, I said. That's what you mean. Ethan reached for me, but I stepped back. You let me lie in a hospital bed, weak and broken, while you found comfort with someone who was supposed to be helping me heal. That's who you are now. His shoulders sagged. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. No, I said. It never is. But it did. And now you have to live with it. The silence that followed felt heavier than any argument could have. For the first time, I wasn't begging for an explanation. I didn't need one. I had seen enough. I turned, forcing my body back down the hallway, each step a declaration that I would not be destroyed by what I just witnessed. Behind me, Ethan called my name, but I didn't look back. In my room, I pressed the call button and asked to speak with the charge nurse. When she came, I explained what had happened. My voice didn't shake. Nicole would never be assigned to me again. That was the only closure I needed in that moment. Ethan came back later, his face tight with shame. I'm sorry, he whispered. I looked at him for a long time. You're not sorry for what you did. You're sorry I caught you. He flinched. I turned away. Go home, Ethan. Pack a bag. We'll talk about logistics later. But you don't belong here anymore. He hesitated, then left. For the first time in days, I felt like I could breathe when Harper came the next morning to pick me up. I told her everything. She didn't gasp or pity me. She just held my hand and said, "You're stronger than you think." At home, I lay in my own bed, staring at the ceiling, the scar on my body aching as if it carried not just the surgery but the betrayal too. And yet, beneath the pain, there was something else, clarity. I didn't know what the future would look like: lawyers, papers, moving boxes. But I knew this. I had faced the truth, looked it in the eye, and walked away standing, and for the first time in a long time, I knew I would be okay.